to be there in person. But we're forcing them to be there in person in the middle of the winter. I know we've been doing that for a long time, but the technology is there to verify, to check, to verify, to make sure the members are who they are and participate. We did it during COVID. And I know we can have the ability to do it again. And so we can have a in person option, but also have a virtual option for members. I don't see why we haven't been able to make that happen for our members.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I am so glad to see all of you. There are here and on Zoom. We've got more than 50 people, a combined number in the room and on Zoom. And on a day like today, I really appreciate it. I am also delighted to see so many new faces here. We've got some new members. Some members have brought their friends. So if you see somebody who doesn't look familiar, say hi, welcome them, welcome them. For those of you who are new, who don't know me, I'm Jana Goldman. I'm the chair of the Benzie Dems, and it is my honor and delight to welcome you all here today. It's been hell. Not the job, but, current events. And so we're going to spend a little time later to catching up on how people are doing, giving you some things that you can do, hearing how we did. But first, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Someday.
Sooner rather than later.
So I'm going to, take a few minutes to do kind of a little check-in to find out, how people are doing. If you want to share how you're coping in the past couple weeks, either in the room or on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, just raise your hand and or put it in the chat. But what are you doing to get yourself and people who you care about through all this? I, for one, I'll start. I am writing letters. I am contacting people. I'm trying to take care of myself and my 2 dogs and my husband, but he's in Fiji, so he doesn't need any care until tomorrow. I know. I know. Well, believe me, he's got a lot waiting for him. But, don't give up hope. We have to have hope. And you're going to hear later on from some other people who are some other ways that we can help you through this. So anybody else want to share? Jill. And wait, you need the. Thank you.
So I'm a. Oh, in front of the. Oh, can you see me here? Here? Am I good? Okay, right here. Yeah, had no idea. That's my hair. So some of you know, some of you know that I'm a therapist, and as it happens to be, it seems like more liberals access therapy than conservatives. And I've had a lot of distressed clients lately. And so I have some ideas that I tell them. One of them was, I heard somebody talking, and what they said was, during the first administration of number 47, a lot of craziness happened, but it wasn't super bad. What was super bad was how often number 47 got in our head. That always on the screen, just the craziness and the chaos that his face and mouth create. So I turn off the TV whenever I see his face. I get my from NPR. I am not saying his name at all. I'm finding any way to cope except to say his name. Also, I'm talking about the administration because it's not just him. It's a complicit group of people who are doing these things. The other thing is I'm keeping some faith in our courts and in the Dems that are in Washington that are going to keep fighting these things that they're trying to push through. Another thing is know what you stand for. Pick some of the issues that are really important to you and figure out how you can act locally. And I'm using an app called 5 Calls. And on 5 Calls, you can see different issues that you might be interested in. And when you click them, it describes what's going on. Then it gives you the phone numbers of the elected officials that will be voting on it. And then it gives you a script, too, of things that you can say and what we're asking for. I think it's an effective tool. I've heard that phone calls to Washington are up like 1,000%. And so I think we need to keep doing that. The other thing is to have a hobby. Have something that is distracting you and letting your mind get in a peaceful flow. Another thing I'm telling my clients is, even when a war is happening, you can still drink tea. It doesn't mean you don't care about the war. Have a tea party. Enjoy beauty. Support the arts. Support each other. So that's what I've been doing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Jill. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to share how they're coping, dealing? Okay, well, I think Jill really encapsulated pretty much everything that people can do, and I know a lot of you are doing it. The most important thing is take care of yourself, take care of others, because we need you. We really do need you. We get a lot of good advice from people. Joe Walsh says, don't quit. Dictators want you to give up. Punch back. Dictators are bullies, and bullies are cowards. We've seen some effect of people pushing back. Court filings. I know court filings can be tediously slow, and we want things to happen faster, but things are happening. Stand with others. Resist. There are things that you can do to, you're here today. That's one way. And we're so glad to see you all. And stay tethered to the truth. And that might be one of the hardest things to do because there's so much stuff flying around. We have some of you grew up in the 60s like I did, and some of you may have, dealt with the adage, know your dealer when obtaining recreational substances. That also is true today for your news sources. Know from whom you're getting this stuff. We have a little list of some really trusted news sources. We'll also put this up on our website. Kira has curated it. Ooh, that's almost alliterative. Kira has curated. But, everybody now is turning to Substacks or newsletters and stuff because sadly, and I say this as a former member of the profession, our news sources are letting us down. NPR is probably one of the last remaining. But, support that if you possibly can. IPR does a fabulous job in Interlochen Public Radio. Support that. Don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. As Jill said, choose the things that are important to you, the things that you can do, and don't feel that you have to do it all the time. Take a rest. Don't quit, but it's okay to take a rest. Taking action is a strategy. You do feel good after making some of these calls. You might not get a response from the people that you call, but know that they are keeping track. I was just talking to Mary. I was in Senator Regal's office, and every time we got a letter, we assumed that there was about 10 other people who felt the same way, who just did not bother to call or bother to write or bother to respond. It doesn't matter if you get a response back. The fact is they know that you're watching. You are a constituent. They are accountable to you. So, and even if you like what they're doing, there are some people who are really doing some good work. Let them know. let them know.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
I had one more thing to add, Tom, here. As far as contact, I saw Amy Klobuchar being interviewed recently, and she said that emails and letters are more effective than phone calls. They keep track of phone calls, but they keep a record of all the emails and the letters. And so that's just another thing to throw in there if you want to go to the trouble of actually sending an email or a letter to people. And I think of like the movie Miracle on 34th Street, if you remember that one, where in the end, Santa Claus existed because they piled mail on the judge's desk. That's what we want to do to the people in Congress.
Thank you, Tom. Whatever you can do is going to make a difference, and it's going to make you feel like you've done something because you have. Because there are a lot of people who aren't doing anything. They feel hopeless. They feel, I don't know what to do. The fact that you're even here today shows that you're committed, that you care, that you realize that you have power and you can use it. Betsy Kafia and Alyssa Slotkin had put out some statements. We have both of those on our website. Betsy's going to be here March 15th, so at our next meeting. So mark that on your calendar. If you haven't heard her before, she is an amazing, inspiring speaker. Someone had called her that she's Benzie County's AOC. So, she is dynamic, she is powerful, she is inspiring, and she is one of us. She is for us.
Who's that she talking to?
Just want to let you know a couple other things that we've got, a couple notes. Traverse Indivisible is having a protest Monday noon at the Government Center. Dress warmly. If you want to bring signs, bring signs. Traverse, is there a Benzie Indivisible group?
No.
Oh. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. The Traverse Courthouse. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. That's at noon, starts at noon. So get there and stay warm. Also, too, you're going to see a lot of stuff. We've been getting a lot of emails from people saying, well, share this with the group, share this with the group. Please vet things before you send it to us because, we don't have the bandwidth to vet everything that you send. So we want to make sure that we are trusted news sources for our members. We don't want to waste your time sending you on some wild goose chase or something like that. A couple good things. If you weren't at the event that we had, our last movie night with Debbie Stabenow, that was absolutely wonderful. And, she was delighted and so were we, and Canadian Bacon was wonderful. Our next movie night is February 28th, and we've got Don't Look Up, which is another movie about people ignoring scientists and at their peril. But this one actually may have some substance. In fact, as NASA said, there's an asteroid aiming our way, and, let's hope that it moves pretty fast. So, okay, I'm sorry, Peggy?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hand and I can't find it on my screen anywhere. So
That's okay. Go ahead, Peggy.
yeah, I just wanted to add to the person who was giving you some hints about what to do. For me, it's first of all, turn off the radio news except NPR. But I know Cindy Shapiro just put in somewhere Democracy Now. Amy Goodman's Democracy Now is another good source of news. If you're not familiar with the Progressive Populist, which is an old-fashioned newspaper that includes people like Jim Hightower and a whole lot of other commentators that I know you are familiar with and you love, you might want to subscribe to that because they haven't been challenged yet. But my go-to thing is local activity, local action. I've decided since I'm old, I'm probably not going to try traveling around the state as much as I used to, but there's a lot of things that you can do locally to build community, which is a really important feature right now. We must build our communities up. We must stay connected to each other. We must create even bigger networks for how to support each other when we have various crises that come along. You know, somebody comes and tries to take your kids out of school or something stupid like that. So I think it's important to get involved in local government and local community building projects. I mean, I personally just work with my township on Parks and Rec Department, and I work with Grow Benzie and the Bee Guild and things like that, but continue to do some statewide work with Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation, which is still trying to do the same things it's been doing for 25 years. So, but the important thing though is not to give up in advance. I don't know, most of you probably have seen the book on tyranny. It tells you, you know, don't give them what they want ahead of time. You know, don't consent in advance to any of this stuff. It's not necessary. We have the people power. It's just a matter of getting it mobilized. So I agree with the notion of sitting back and relaxing a little bit when you need to, so you can stay calm and you don't react just instantaneously to something. You have to take the time to vet it out a bit and then calmly figure out what to do. That's all.
Thanks so much, Peggy. Mary's got her hand up. Mary, unmute yourself, please.
Thanks. Thanks, Peggy. This actually segues off of you pretty well. It's really important to use your energy wisely. I think Jill alluded to that too. Your energy is precious and it's your natural resource. One of the things I've learned recently is the majority of federal employees are not in Washington, D.C. And the vast majority of federal employees are not in D.C. And the programs that are being affected are all over the country, if not all over the world. So the strong suggestion is see what's going on and what they are cutting, and then look at what's happening in your own neighborhood and relate it to the people that you know. The lady down on the street who was on a clinical trial and now has been bumped off. And she was doing well with her cancer treatment, but now is floundering because she can no longer get those drugs. It's children's hospitals that have been impacted hugely, and some wings are closing down all over the country. So find out how it impacts your neighborhood and use your energy to highlight those things. Be the light that shines on those losses. And that's a really good way of using your energy.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary. Anybody else in the room? Jim Dalzo.
Also,
Thanks. First of all, I'm really blown away by all these people showing up. Thank you all. We love you madly. I know you love us. We all need each other, right? That's really what it's all about. I just want to say, I'm sure all of you have friends who are saying, you know, I've just tuned the whole thing out. I don't want to hear about any of it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't watch the TV. I'm burying my head in science fiction books and I'm not looking up for 4 years. You need to talk to those people. You need to find some way to get to them and say, look, you don't have to obsess and watch all the crap they're throwing at you through the tube. You don't have to do that, but you do have to speak out, and it's really easy to do. Here's how you do it. Just make these phone calls. Just do it once a day. You'll find yourself starting to feel better. So please, you know, everybody in this room knows somebody like that, everybody, and make sure you talk to them. It needs a gentle approach. I'm probably not the best one to do it myself because I'm not gentle enough, but you need to really to do that. I think that can make a really, really big difference. We need to get more people involved. We're involved, or you all wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here, but we need to get the people who feel the same way we do and are blown away by it, try to start to help to revive them, because we need them too. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, just one more little announcement, and then I'm going to turn this over to Kira. Oh, I'm sorry. right, we'll go do Jeannie first and then we'll do Marcia.
I just wanted to say that I see that a lot, Jim, that people should write or they should call. It'd be really nice if we had a big list of who to call.
We do.
Okay,
We
so
do.
thank
We
you.
do. Thank you, Jeannie.
Okay.
Also, too, I just want to let you know, we've got about 40 people here in the room and 37 on the Zoom call. That is 77 of you. So bravo to all of you, every single one of you. And you know, all of you know at least one person, so that's doubled. And then, you know, you are very, very powerful. You've got the power. So, more than usual. And Marcia, I think, had her hand up. Marcia? Unmute Marcia, please.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes,
I just have a suggestion for people who are going to the Monday demonstration in Traverse City at noon. It's going to be 10 degrees, they say. And if you need toe warmers or hand warmers, CVS has them. So that's where you get them, which is what I did yesterday for the group that I'm bringing.
Thank you, Marcia, for the news that we could really use. Speaking of what we can use, we need a co-secretary to help Stuart out. Stuart's our fabulous new secretary, but you know, we like having a co-secretary in case you know, we want to have a backup for everything. We want to make sure. We did put out a call for a co-treasurer and somebody did respond. So Paul's talking to that person. So we're excited about that. Lookouts, we're always looking for lookouts. So if you feel like you have some time and you want to, and this is especially for the new members and friends of their members, and you want to participate, we've got things for you to do. A lookout is like a reporter. You go to a Board of Commissioners meeting or a local meeting and you report what they've done. We've got some people who are lookouts and they'd be happy to give you more details. Thanks, Char. All right, you're tired of hearing my voice and I'm tired of hearing it too. So I'm going to turn this over to Kira.
I just have a couple of things. If anybody, so speaking of local, some of you may know that there are 2 Ukrainian refugee families in Benzie County, in the Frankfurt area, and you're wonderful. So there's concern about their status here now. And the people who work closely with those families who worked to get them here are doing everything they can to find legal ways to keep them here, but it's of great concern. So we have heard from one of the people who helped to bring them, and she said that she has advice for those writing letters or making phone calls, which would be to Jack Bergman and to Gary Peters. Also, seems like John DeMoose was somebody that they were in contact with. But so she says, if you're familiar with the situation and you want to help, write letters or make phone calls. Do not share the names of the families or the location in which they are living. But she also recommends that you share this information with church or organizational affiliations and tell your elected people that that we support welcoming those fleeing the war in Ukraine. These people came here legally under humanitarian parole. They are hardworking, law-abiding citizens, and you might want to add that Benzie County's population leans heavily toward retirees and that we need more young families and workers. So there you go. No names, no locations. Okay.
Wait, this is Jill Claypool. If I could add one little thing, the Demus part of that, I think, is because when I contacted Bergman's office, the person who got back to me is named Chief Demus. That is his son. So he's the legislative aide in Bergman's office.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Is that all about that? I have other information to share, again, local stuff. So hold on a second for me. So many of you, some of you may have heard about the situation with the lawsuit in Benzie County. The survivors of a woman who was murdered in Benzie County. Her name is Linda Henry. Her family has filed a lawsuit naming the county and 4 deputies because they did not give her equal protection under the law. That's what their lawsuit is stating. So you can read about this in the Record Patriot online. It's quite disturbing what happened with the deputies that were called. I hate to go over all the horrible, but you can find it on the Record Patriot. It also was covered on Up North Live. So if anybody wants those links. Wait.
Don't mean to interrupt you, and you might be
No, go
going there,
ahead.
but I'm Sue Jennings. Yeah, thanks. A federal employee retiree and very upset about what's going on the other things. But this local situation, as horrible as that murder was, and there was negligence, it seems, if you read the lawsuit, there's other incidents where those deputies did not respond to women who called for assistance. And it seems to be a pattern. So it's not one incident, it's a pattern of ignoring women. So women, girls, our nieces, our grandmothers, our mothers, everybody. So it's a very important issue, I think.
Yeah, and these deputies were transcribed on a system that's voice to text exactly what they were saying, and it was truly awful. So I'll let you read it yourself or hear about it on Up North Live. Linda Henry is the name of the woman who was.
You might mention
And if you need law enforcement in Benzie County, call the state police. Do not call the sheriff's office.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
One thing that we should all consider is that the Benzie County prosecutor said that they would vigorously defend those deputies, and they deserve their day in court, but there should also be we should ask for a review of the Benzie County Sheriff's procedures.
Right. And so we're also asking people, your neighbors, everybody, it's not a partisan issue, it's a human issue. We're asking people to call your commissioner. And I have a list, I'll pass around commissioners' phone numbers and emails, and also to call the sheriff. When I talked with my commissioner, he said we don't have any sway over exactly what the sheriff's department is doing. But I think they need to hear that people are outraged, and then it will just keep this going, keep this issue in front of the community, and then call the sheriff and complain to the sheriff. We've also contacted Dana Nessel's department, and we haven't yet put in a request that they do an investigation, but that's possibly coming. We need somebody who will take that a step further. Also, the Record Patriot online has a letter to the editor from one of our members, Brad Raymond, who immediately wrote a wonderful letter to the editor. So there's a lot of resources out there. That was just online.
Yeah.
It's also in the online.
Yeah. May I add something to that, Kira? It's
Sure.
Marsha. I just read, I spend the winter in Traverse City. I just read that a week or so ago that the prosecutor in Benzie County has been named to be a special prosecutor in reviewing the situation that has come up about the former president of the Grand Traverse County Commission, Mr. Herschel.
Oh, yeah.
So that's sort of an interesting twist. And she was named to this job by Dana Nessel.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so anyway, we really want people to, I passed around the names and numbers, everything that you can use to call, make your voice heard, that we cannot have this kind of action going on in our sheriff's department. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kira. Anybody have any comments or questions on what Kira has updated us on two major situations in our area? You guys are terrific. I really love you all. I do. All right. Now, for the next part, we're going to hear a little bit about how we did in the election. We were hoping to get this a little earlier, but events overtook, and we are going to hear from the amazing Chris Kitzman, our data queen, and then Jim is going to. Where'd Jim go? Well, wait. He wanted to give the build up for this. Oh, Jim. You're on. Yeah, you wanted to. We're starting the Chris and Aubrey section.
Oh, well, Chris can narrate herself. Go ahead. Go right ahead, Chris. I was going to say something. No. Yeah, you go ahead with yours. Well, okay, I will. All right, fine. All right. Okay, all right. So look, we wanted people to know that all this work we've been doing is actually getting us somewhere, because we've been working really hard. And I got to tell you, people come to the Benzie County Democrats and they look around, they meet us and they see what's going on and say, you guys are awesome. Well, we have the numbers to prove that. And what we wanted to do today was first look at what we did in this last election cycle by the numbers, which is what Chris is going to talk about. And then we're going to hear from Aubrey about what we see as some of the effects on the voting. And I think you'll hear a lot of hope in both of these. So Chris can tell us what we've done. I don't know if some of you are new, you don't know Chris. She was pretty much our campaign manager, building manager, and staff manager the last year. And amazing, she's still alive. It's just great. So let's give her a warm round of applause to welcome her.
Thank you.
And
Actually,
take it away, Chris.
Till after I tell you what I'm going to tell you. Thanks, Jim. I do want to do a quick little 1-minute recap of our work. In addition to what we've always done, the ongoing activities like the pop-ups and the pop-up kiosks that are out in the community. Okay, and the letters to the editor and the lookouts that were mentioned earlier. And I just want to say that many of you in the room and on Zoom, maybe most and possibly all, have really helped to do a lot of stuff in this last election cycle. So as I'm talking about what we're doing, pat yourselves on the back if you were involved, and know that we need to get from Mach 1 or 2 or wherever the sound barrier is beyond that now. So keep thinking about how you are going to help break the next barriers, because there's a lot of barriers being thrown up. Yep. So as we walk through this, and I am going to just give you a lot of numbers. I don't have nice visuals. Aubrey will have nice visuals. This isn't stuff you have to memorize. I can give it to you later if you want, but just know that between June and August of this past year, the Benzie Dems did a lot of door knocking. There were a number of canvassers. We had just in that little window, we had close to 700 with a 41 to 51% contact rate, which is unbelievable. That's more than any other year. And most of them were deep canvassing. We did some training on how to really talk and listen to people. So it wasn't just high vote for so-and-so and go away. With low frequency voters. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those results in a minute. But those were intense conversations and they were effective. Once the One campaign, the Harris Waltz campaign, joined us in that room, and they continued to knock on the doors, led by Robbie. And most of those were just reminders to the AV voters. And there were some great numbers there too. I'll give you some numbers in a minute.
The Board of Commissioner candidates actively canvassed in their districts, especially Christy Trigg and our Stewie here. We had 2 slate drops with those blue bags, and many of you did that. And it was just a drop and hello, we've got information for you and go. But boy, people came out of the woodwork, and we did 366 of those with absentee voters prior to that time. And then we did another 230 during the get out the vote window. And we did a targeted mailing of those slates. And each of those takes a lot of people power. Okay, 320 mailings means a lot of addressing. All right, think about that. So think about how you can continue to help. We did 7 postcard campaigns. We had information about the Supreme Court, about newly registered voters. Your vote matters. We supported some of our local candidates. We had 4 postcard parties right here in this room. A lot of people took stuff home and worked on it. The Not on Our Watch group did over 2,000 postcards on women's rights, and we supported them. We very close to 3,000 cards, including what we call pre-walk cards, where we help candidates introduce themselves to their neighbors. We send cards ahead and say, hey, Stuart's going to be at your door in a week. Say hello. So that was all happening, and we did that with the Board of Commissioner candidates. We did several house parties for candidates. We did a lot of phone calls, especially when we had to tell people how to do a write-in candidate for our person in District 7, Javed Shah. We did digital ads, banner ads, billboards, da, 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 da. So it was an amazing effort, and every one of those took a lot of legwork and a lot of bandwidth, to use Janet's words. So stay tuned, folks. I'm just going to give you a quick little overview on turnout across the county. And again, Aubrey will be embellishing this shortly. So we've had pretty much about a 69% turnout in Benzie County from among the registered voters since 2012. That it's averaged right up to there, but it popped up to 75% this last November. It's the number, yeah, for all the registered voters, 75% of them. Yep. Which is pretty amazing. In 2016, it sort of, the shift was, or not the shift, but the balance was about 40% Democrats voting for Hillary, about 54% for that other person, and the rest were spread across other candidates. In 2020, the Democrat was about 48% for Biden and 52, unfortunately, for that other person. This last year, and again, Aubrey is going to check me on this because I'm not sure these are accurate. She's done a lot better digging than I have. But the Democratic vote obviously dropped a little bit. I have 45% to 54% for the Republicans in this November one. But the really cool thing is 50% of those were straight ticket votes. Now, the interesting thing about that, you can just check Democrat or Republican. The interesting thing about that is that's typically the Democrats' bailiwick. This last November, it shifted. Just about 40% of the Democrats did a straight ticket vote, and the Republicans have found it now and went up to about 60% of that 50% is what I'm saying, of the people who voted straight. That was that split. And the caveat here is that many of our Democrats, many of you among them, I'm sure, split their vote or mixed their vote so that they could vote for some independents, such as Kathy Albro. And that has really skewed those numbers. So if you hear those numbers, don't take it to heart. Understand what was going on there. We had very high straight Democratic vote in Frankfurt, a very low straight Democratic vote in inland townships. High Republican vote in inland, of course, the inverse, and lowest was Republican vote was in Frankfurt, which was only 46%. So Harrison Waltz won in Frankfurt, Lane, Crystal Lake, Gilmore Lake, and Platt was 0.3% off. So whoever's in Platt, get going. No. Anyway, Benzie's turnout, that 75% I mentioned, was the 6th highest in the state. Leelanau led the charge at 80%. Isn't that remarkable? Yeah. So 3 successes that I just want to pull out, and then we'll get into the deets here. I mentioned that deep canvassing. The deep canvassers, folks who were doing that, went to 570 voters who were either strong or leaning Dems who had not voted in 2016 or in 2020. Okay. They did not vote in those last 2 presidential elections. I ran the numbers, 374 of them voted this year. Now, obviously, it wasn't quite enough, but that's remarkable. I mean, it paid off. It really paid off. They did listen. It's always hard to get canvassers. We had 85 people who were actively canvassing this year, plus 30 people who were driving. They stepped up to help, and you know what? They found it fulfilling, not scary. We had a lot of good reports in here. There were another 21 who showed interest, but may not have actually canvassed. We don't have records to see that they actually did it. The one campaign scheduled multiple shifts. They exceeded their goals of volunteers. And the nice thing about this, the really good news, hi, sweetheart. We have a little visit here from a puppy. 146 people are out there who have now indicated interest and are willing to do that, and we can call on them next round. That's compared to maybe 20 or 30 we've had in the past. It's huge. It's huge. The other thing I just want to mention is that Christy Trigg kept that Dem seat against a well-known person, Andy Miller, in Frankfurt Crystal Lake Commissioner District by 48 votes, folks. So again, it worked, but more work is needed. That's it for me.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Okay, Jim is going to take over for Aubrey's part. You want to sit up here, Jim?
Oh, okay, you let me into the big table.
I'll let you come back to the big table, Jim. Come on. This is where he usually sits.
Thank you, Jana. Isn't she doing a great job handling all this stuff? Okay, so next up here, we're going to hear from Aubrey. Now, here's the thing. This is on tape. She had to video record this for reasons that are just too complicated to explain, except that she's very busy. And it's a fine presentation. Problem with it is that it's 36 minutes long. Okay, but it's in 4 or 5 parts. She looks at the overall registration and participation numbers, just kind of a national and statewide picture. Then she looks at what happened in Benzie in terms of all of that. And then she looks at how Kamala Harris compared to Biden compared to Hillary, to look at that trend. The 2 sections after that are a very close look at what happened township to township. And after that is an even closer look at what happened in what we call District 7 up there. If you look at District 7, that is Gilmore and Blair and Joyfield and Weldon Townships, where there's a district commissioner we'd absolutely love to get rid of. He's just, his name suits him well, and I'll just leave it at that. So what I propose to do is that we'll listen to the first 3 sections of Aubrey until she starts into the township stuff, and we'll stop the tape there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put the whole tape on YouTube. And y'all can come back and either watch the first part again because it's so scintillating, or skip ahead to part 4 and watch the last 2 parts. So this is about a 18 or 19 minute presentation. I think you'll find it pretty interesting. And I think Tom is ready to roll that. Are you ready to roll that, Tom? We'll find out if he's ready to roll it. So we'll go with that. And then at the end of that, we will kind of end the meeting. We've got a very nice tune to play a few. We're calling it our recessional. And we'll have that on. You don't need to leave. You do need to help us finish the food, okay? That's required. So without further ado, here's Aubrey with her deep dive into the national, state, and Benzie numbers in this last election. Go ahead, Tom. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I can't be with you this morning. I got double booked. So I don't know if many of you are aware, but Randy Stoltz and I used to organize the Betsy Bay Frozen 5K, which was a run from Alberta to Frankfurt for about 10 years. We got more than 200 runners, and it was an amazing community event for the off-season here in Benzie County, bringing hundreds of runners and their family members to the local businesses during the winter weekend. Our last time doing it was 2020, about a month before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. We haven't brought it back since because we both filled our plates with other stuff. But we're so happy to have Michelle O'Kelly, a post-COVID transplant, along with her husband, Matt Jason, who they both recently relocated here in Benzonia from East Lansing. They're both Dems, and I think they maybe come to one. I know they want to get more involved with the Dems, so look for them in the future. But they're taking over the run for Randy and I. But since this was the first race back in 5 years, we just wanted to both be there to help out with the transition. So that's where I am this morning. I hope you don't mind, but I'm recording this. You can always email me if you have follow-up questions. So Jim asked me and Chris to do this data crunch of the 2024 election, like I try to do every few years for you guys. The first thing that I looked at is how registration increased countywide this year in 2024 compared to 2020, the previous presidential election. So we had a total of 17,258 registered voters in 2024, which is 741 more than in 2020, which means that we had 4.5% more registered voters than during the last presidential election. However, something that I want to note is that this increase was about half of what we saw the previous 4 years. So what I mean by that is that, as I mentioned, we had 741 new registrants between 2020 and 2024, but we had 1,385 new registrants between 2016 and 2020. So that's almost double. Is that because we've saturated our possible registrants with our pushes to get people registered between 2016 and 2022? Is that because our birth rate is down and we have fewer people each year turning 18? Is that because voting rolls are being purged? Is that because registered voters are dying off and not being replaced? I'm not sure. It's especially hard because our 2020 census wasn't a rigorous process and happened during a pandemic. So we don't even know if our total population count is very accurate. That's going to come into play a little bit later, but I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. So supposedly we had 18,555 full-time residents in 2024. That's all ages, 0 to whatever. 17,990 in 2020. 17,523 in 2016. Again, who knows how accurate those estimates are, but that's all I can tell you is that our 4-year increase in voter registrations this time was half of what it was the previous 4 years between the presidential elections. And again, that's that 741 number this time compared to that 1,385. Okay, so how many of the 17,000 and some registered voters actually voted in 2024? Quite a few. We had 12,944 voters in 2024, which is 605 more voters than in 2020. So again, if we compare the previous 4-year gains, though, we're down, and before we were down by about half, and this time we're down by like 3 times as much. So it was 1,986, almost 2,000 more voters between 2016 to 2020 compared to, again, that 608 number. So again, 741 more registered voters and 608 more actual voters between 2020 to 2024, compared to what I said before, 1,385 new registered voters and close to 2,000 voters, actual voters, between 2016 to 2020. Essentially, there was just a bigger push to vote between 2016 and 2020 than there was between 2020 in 2024, at least here in Benzie County. So what this tells me is that maybe we are kind of at a saturated level. I don't know. And maybe we're seeing that new normal here in Benzie County. So we always seem to have voter registration and voter turnout that are higher than the national and the state averages. But maybe our highs are like even higher, or like stay at this high level. One other point I just want to make real briefly is that you might, I don't want to give you what the national and state averages are that other people are saying right now, because they're not quite the same as the way that I'm defining them here. A lot of times what the national kind of stats are is they're talking about like people who are voting eligible, right? I mean, they're 18 and older and they're not a felon, depending on which state you're in. That's like a whole other thing, like voting eligible population. But we don't even know what our population really numbers are here, because again, our census maybe is messed up. And I don't even know how many of those are like 18 and older. So I did not look at voting eligible population. I just took the total number of voters and divided those by the total number of registered voters. So in Benzie County, our turnout was 75%, meaning that 75% of Benzie County's registered voters actually turned up to the polls in November. So it's that 12,000 number, 12,944 divided by the 17,258. So how many people voted actually versus how many people were registered to vote? So that's exactly the same percentage as 2020. It's up from 2016, which was 69%, 68% in 2012. We did have 74% in 2008 and 2004, but it was down at 58% in 2000. And again, I'm just looking at the presidential elections every 4 years right now. I'm not including like the gubernatorials in between or the midterms, because those tend to have lower voting turnout and whatnot. So it's apples and oranges. So I'm not doing that. So it's every 4 years. Okay. So again, if we look at every 4-year presidential election back to 2000, it's 75%, 75%, 69, 68, 74, 74, 58. Okay. So Benzie County always has pretty great turnout. It's always higher than state national averages, and this year that 75% seems pretty on par, considering that we had 75% just 4 years ago. So that's great trend to see, right? Higher registration, higher voter turnout, higher overall number of people voting in Benzie County in 2024 compared to 2020. So again, the gains between are not as high as what we saw between 2016 and 2020. So next, we want to know how people actually voted. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. Okay. So if you look here, this is the difference in the voters. This is not the total number. So this is the total number of votes over here. Where, so for instance, this is Elmira Township, and Trump had 1,494 votes in 2024. Okay. And Kamala Harris had 1,187. And so their totals down here, this is per township, he had 6,895, she had 5,780. If we compare those to 2020, so this is 2020, okay, so this is what Elmira Township, what Trump had in 2020, this is what Trump has in 2024, this is what Biden had, 1064, and this is what Kamala had, 1,187, right? So these are the totals at the bottom. So if we look at that, and we go over here, which is the numbers that I did, this is the difference. So you can see that, and I'll come back to this later, but essentially if it's in red, it means that Trump got more votes in 2024 than he did in 2020. If it's yellow, it's a negative number. So he got, in Blaine Township, for instance, he got 22 fewer votes in Blaine Township than he himself did in 2020. So Kamala Harris, if she got more votes than Biden did, it's in blue. So for instance, look at Elmira, Trump had 67 more votes than himself in 2020, but Kamala Harris had 123 more votes than Biden did, okay? So we look down here at the bottom, the totals, okay? Trump had 295 more votes than he himself had in 2020. But Kamala Harris had 300 more votes than Biden did in 2020. That means that although Kamala lost to Trump, so again, 6,895 votes for him, 5,780 votes for her, she had 5 more total vote gains, the 300 compared to the 295 than he did. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And so basically, it was neck and neck in terms of gained voters that they both had when compared to Biden. When compared to 2020, either Biden or Trump himself, right? So, hang on, I'm sorry, my screen just did something odd, and now my computer's being slow. It's an old computer, don't do this. Okay, there. Sorry, give me just, I'm gonna pause it.
So what we're finding out is your vote really counts. Your vote matters.
Basically, next back in terms of gain vote, when compared with 2020, he had 295, she had 300. We are only one of a handful of counties in the entire state that can say that though. So I am going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you a couple other things. So what I want to show you here is that this is this year, right? So as we know, on a national level, Kamala had a turnout problem compared to Biden 4 years ago. It wasn't necessarily that Biden voters switched to Trump, though that definitely happened some. It was more about people just not turning out for her. Notably, the same thing happened for not the same extent, but it also happened to Hillary in 2016. People just didn't come out to vote for her like they had for Obama 4 years before. So at the national level, we can see right here that Kamala had 75 million votes, a little bit more, right? 75,017,000 and change, okay? Compared to Biden had 81 million, 81.3 million, okay? So that's 6 million fewer people that voted for Kamala Harris than voted for Biden. Meanwhile, Trump had 77.3 million right here. And he had 77.3 million. And then 4 years ago, he had 74.2 million. So he gained 3 million votes more than he had in 2020. So don't let anyone tell you that he won by a mandate, because he didn't. He won by 2 million votes, first of all, the 77 compared to 75, right? He got only 3 million more votes than he had 4 years ago. The problem was a turnout for Kamala, more than it was people switching parties from Democrat to Republican. Again, it happened, but that wasn't as big of an issue. The Dems just didn't turn out for her like they had for Biden. If I share my screen again, I'm going to show you guys Michigan if I can on its own. Let me refresh this real quick. So if we look at, Michigan, okay. So I can just kind of zoom in for it. So we look at Michigan. Biden had 2.8 million votes right here. So you can see Biden had 804 million votes. Okay. And Kamala had 2.73 million. So Trump back in 2020 had 2.649 million. And this time around, he had 2.816 million. Okay. So she lost about 68,000 votes compared to Biden 4 years ago. Meanwhile, Trump gained about 167,000 votes in Michigan. So he won Michigan by about 80,000 total votes. So, you know, that's not so great. But the point is, it wasn't a mandate. It was more about a turnout problem. So, however, here in Benzie County, we didn't see that. We were actually one of 8 counties to swing toward Kamala Harris. So in this map, which is provided by NLive, and it is also interactive, purple indicates a shift towards Trump in 2020. even if Harris earned more of the overall vote. So for instance, I'm going to show you Washtenaw County, okay? So we all know that Washtenaw County always votes Democrat with Ann Arbor being there. She captured 71% of the vote, it says, and Trump had 26.6% of the vote, right? So she won handily Washtenaw County. However, it says that that county swung 2.2 percentage points towards Trump, which is why it's purple, even though it's swinging towards Trump means purple, even though she won that county, okay? So you can see much of the state swung towards him. He had a higher percentage point this time around than he did in 2020. However, there are these green counties. So we have Ottawa, Manistee, Leelanau, Benzie, Grand Traverse, Charlevoix, Emmett, and Presque Isle, okay? So if you look at the green counties, you'll see that those represent places where Harris outperformed Biden's 2020 numbers. So for us in Benzie County, there we go, that means that although Kamala got 45% of the vote here compared to Trump's 53.7% of the vote, he saw, on the back end of these numbers, he saw a 0.4 swing towards himself, which again is that 295 votes that I talked about. But she saw a 0.7% swing over Biden, which was that 300 votes, which means that we had a 0.3%, they say 0.4, I'm not sure exactly what the difference is, it's very small, swing to the left, total, overall. Again, it's not much, it's 300 votes compared to 295, but those 200 votes for her was a bigger swing than the 295 votes that Trump got. She did 5.5% better in Benzie County than Biden did, and Trump only did 4.5% better than he himself did in 2020. So I'm going to say that one more time and try to let it sink in because I know it's thrown a lot of numbers at you. Kamala's gains were slightly more than Trump by 5 votes. So even though she lost here, she did 300 votes better than Biden did in 2020. And Trump only did 295 better than himself in 2020. So we are one of 8 counties in green here in the entire state that swung left instead of right compared to 2020. So Jim really wants me to hit this point home because it's a win that should be celebrated. And you can see that the pinky was lit up green. Our neighbors to the north and south saw the same results. Leelanau, Grand Traverse, Manistee counties, all were places where Kamala did better than Biden did in 2020, which is pretty impressive when you compare that to the other counties in our state. But it's especially impressive if we remember those big numbers that I mentioned nationally. Remember, Trump did 3 million better than himself in 2020, but Kamala did 6 million worse than Biden did. So the fact that she did 300 better than Biden in Benzie County is a big deal. What that tells me is that the message of the Benzie Dems and our neighboring Northwest Michigan groups is working. Your hard work at the Benzie Dems, the letter writing campaign, the township lookout, the community pop-ups, the calls, the door knocking, all of it is making a difference here to help swing Benzie County left, even if the rest of the state and the county and the country is swinging right. Please, if you take nothing else away from me and my data and all the numbers today, remember that our little pinky in Michigan is green because of your hard work. So.
Okay, we're going to hold it right there. There's more. We'll put it on YouTube so you can watch that. And we'll send it all out to y'all. If you're on our mailing list, you'll hear about it. I don't know if you know, we have a YouTube channel. We have our own YouTube channel. Every one of our meetings goes up there for people to watch, and special services like this is going to be. So we'll hear more about that then. Let's thank Aubrey again. I know she can't hear you, but and Chris. Thank you, Chris. And I understand Cindy Shapiro wants to say something before we adjourn the meeting.
Yes, Cindy, do you want to, can you unmute?
Okay, right. I wanted to make note, since we were talking about the Record Patriot, that possibly it was the week before when there was an article where the leader of the Benzie Area Pride Network, Susan Wenslick, was quoted in making some very good, strong remarks, reasonable remarks, supporting LGBTQ+. And I'm saying all this in the context of transgender are now the Jews or the Blacks or the communists, whatever the scapegoat is for a certain historical time period. LGBTQ, especially transgender, are like ground zero for blame and being in a very scary moment in history. So we need to pay attention. And although the article in the Record Patriot largely quoted, had some great quotes by Susan Wenslick, they also made a point to cover themselves and thoroughly explained our Republican representative Jack Bergman's point of view that the gender you're born with is the gender you are, and that he believes that and stands by that. And while we know he would do that, we don't like seeing that emphasized at a time when transgender are scapegoated. So I just want us to keep an eye on all this and to keep speaking up for transgender rights in this fragile moment for that demographic. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And that's a great reminder, too, that there are a lot of communities that are being attacked, being marginalized. You know, there are people in your own families, people your close friends. Watch out for them, take care of them, support them, and do everything you can to help them get through this with the rest of us. And our last person, and I don't know if he's still on, Mark Ludwig is running for the Michigan Democratic Party second vice chair. Mark, are you still on? I don't see you. If you are,
yeah, no, I'm still here. I can give you my hot minute and a half if you'll take it.
I'll take your hot minute and a half. Go ahead.
All right. My name is Mark Ludwig, running for second vice chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. I started out running
You
with...
can slow down a little bit, though.
Gotcha. I'm running with Al Williams, who also joins us today on the Solidarity ticket. We are both very focused on the grassroots, and I think your meeting today shows exactly why. Counties like yours, Allegan County, where I live, where there's a strong county party, really have great results to show for compared to counties where, like Iron County, where I grew up, where the Democratic Party has effectively fallen away. There's no organized county party in that area at all. So what would I do? I'd like to take what we've done with the Rural Caucus and really focus on pushing out the information we need, the networking we need. And I also think we need to start talking about pushing out some serious money, particularly to state house, state senate candidates, and county commission candidates. I'm really convinced at this point that having actual candidates on the ground interacting with people in public may be kind of the future, just because the media environment is so fragmented and biased that it is difficult to break through in some of these media. It's not that we shouldn't. In fact, I think going on what we would consider hostile media is super important, and I think the executive committee of the party really needs to do more of that. Lastly, I'll just say, I think also the experience you were able to talk about with the One campaign, super enlightening, and I've heard this across the state as well. There's the county parties that are strong, that have a good program in place. When the One campaign comes to town, they use it much more effectively than in places where they're kind of waiting for rescue from the One campaign, and the One campaign really just hasn't been able to deliver that kind of organization. Really agree that we need to develop more homegrown talent. So when One is hiring, they're hiring Michigan people who can pronounce town names and such, and actually know the facts on the ground. Madam Chair, I talked to you earlier before the meeting started, so at this time I'll yield and hope to see you all in Detroit next Saturday. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. And I know we've got Al on the call too, but Al did speak to us before, and we are kind of running out of time. But Mark, I look forward to seeing, I'm going to be at the convention in Detroit, and I look forward to meeting you all. We also, the Benzie Dems submitted a resolution asking the state party to support like office expenses or utilities or something like that for especially rural offices, because having an office was one of the keys to our success, because we had representatives from the state campaign and the national campaign up here, and they were impressed by all of you and what we were doing. And I think that's going to be another key to our success. So Paul, do you have a question? You need the microphone though, Paul. Wait.
I'm going to the convention on Friday, and I wanted to know what I should know about going. I'm going with the officer from the Grand Traverse Democrat.
Okay, Paul, I'll get in touch with you about that. We can.
Okay. One more thing. Jack Bergman's newsletter stated that he was proud to be a sponsor of House Resolution 556, which exempts national refuges from lead regulations. That means lead bullets, lead fishing gear, and things like that. So to just reiterate the power of networking, I contacted the Ducks Unlimited, National Audubon, our local Audubon. These people didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing go down in flames. So they were very grateful that I called them.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If anybody else is going to the convention, please just let me know and we can coordinate. I know there was another member who was going and now she can't, but I'd really like to know who else is going to be there at the convention. And what Paul said, Carl Bernstein once told me that John, who's the assistant attorney general under Watergate, he said, don't listen to what we say, watch what we do. So watch what they're doing. They can say anything, but they're doing some pretty bad stuff. And, you've got the power to keep them accountable. So I think with Terry, did you have a comment? You need the microphone.
It was Ruckel's house.
No, it was Martha. Oh, John Mitchell, Martha Mitchell's husband.
Oh,
and who doesn't love Martha Mitchell, right?
I just want to say that in one of the biggest mistakes it seems that the Dems made and is responsible for their failure to win this time is they haven't delivered for the common person. They haven't. And they haven't met them where they are. And I'm thinking that maybe strategy-wise, like I got a copy of Project 25, the summary points, and those pain points, because his pain to everyone is his gain.
Yep.
And if we can strategize, pull out maybe whatever it is, 5 priority pain points, those are opportunities. Those are opportunities to help people in pain, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican. That's how we win next time. And one of those items, one of those things may very well be, because on the horizon is going to be vaccinations. It's going to be, we're not going to see reports, bird flu's coming out. Measles outbreak in Texas has doubled, is now going into New Mexico. Well, we're not going to see those reports. They're not going to release those, but they will not be able to cover up reality. They won't. And maybe it's like, get early and start getting a pipeline maybe into Canada to get vaccinations over to the States, develop some kind of back road thing to get vaccinations, set up these clinics and get people, that's where you really meet people where they need you, and identify those horrible pain points that are going to come, but do it in advance and start getting stuff in line and then take credit for it, for God's sake.
Thanks, Terry. Those are good points, but I need to remind everybody, we were on Project 2025 as soon as we heard about it. And wait. And we have delivered. I mean, people are going to start seeing the things that the Biden administration put into place. Wait, but please, like $35 insulin, the things with the Affordable Care Act and all sorts of things, they're going to see it. And you know what? You're right. Democrats do need to take more credit for what we've done. But that in the past, we've just thought we can help people and they're going to appreciate it. And you're right, they don't. So you've given us some good ideas for next time. Let's channel this energy. And you know what? It's 11:15. It's a snowy day. Unless there's anything else, Judy? So sorry for the Zoom people, but Judy is reminding everybody that there's extra food and to take extra food home. Okay, one more comment, please.
My name is Mark Chinesco. I think that Democrats need better messaging. We need a message. We need a message. One thing I think is really effective for the Benzie Dems is two billboards. Are really effective. In our own little circles on Facebook, on YouTube and stuff like that, I think that the billboards are really effective as you come into town in honor. And I think we should get the messaging out on that of what we stand for. We have to say what we stand for, have messaging, and not get bogged down in the individual little muck battles.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Rob is going to have the final word because I know he always gets the final word.
Rob?
Unless Jeannie's around.
You have to support your township officials like myself, and you guys do. But regarding the billboard, stop the steal. That's the 3 words we should put on it.
And we need more money.
With that, I think I am going to adjourn this meeting, and we've got a recessional, but stick around and talk to people. Get involved. We've got tons of stuff for you to do. I love you all. Take care of yourselves and safe driving. Stone of democracy that I use.
There's a handout for you.
Oh, good.
Social, just.
Yeah, they're good. I like them. Fiscal social.
This is what just came through. I made copies. Sheila went and made her own copy. I want to give you a couple. Whoever.
Thank you.
Wants to pass it out.
Okay, thank you, Bob. You know what? Why don't you put it up there on the desk and people can look at it on their way out?
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, volunteer. Look out for the secretary. Oh. Backup co-secretary. Backup co-secretary.
Well, it's sure a shame we haven't got any volume.
Yesterday, I logged in and they had it all set up and they had it working perfectly. And today, I don't know what they did, but it was a fail.
Yeah, that's a shame. And I couldn't understand what Aubrey was saying at all. And I tried to do the caption thing, and it was such small print going so fast that didn't help me either. So I have no idea what Aubrey's report was.
I could listen to most of that, but it wasn't the best as far as the